You cursed woman. You and these bastard children will not eat from my fortune." The words tore through the night like thunder, cutting sharper than the rain that pounded the deserted bridge. Funk stumbled backward, her arms instinctively tightening around her two children, 7-year-old Blessing and 5-year-old Emmanuel. Their small bodies trembled against her soaked dress, their whimpers barely audible over the roar of the storm. Her ex-husband, Femi Oladeji, stood before her like a stranger. This was not the man who had once promised her forever. This was a monster wearing his face, his eyes burning with hatred so intense it made her stomach turn. Welcome to Stories by Tino. Before we dive deeper into this heartbreaking tale, thank you so much for your incredible support. You keep us going with your love, your shares, and your powerful stories. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from: USA, Jamaica, Nigeria, UK? We love hearing from you. Now, let's continue. The bridge stretched empty on both sides, a lonely strip of concrete suspended over the Ogun River. Cars had stopped passing an hour ago. The rain created a curtain of isolation, and Funk realized with growing terror that no one would hear them scream. "Femi, please," she begged, her voice cracking. "Just one night. Let us stay just one night. The children are cold. They haven't eaten since yesterday." Emmanuel buried his face in her shoulder, his small body racked with shivers. Blessing stood pressed against her mother's side, her thin legs barely able to hold her upright. Both children wore torn school uniforms, soaked through and clinging to their malnourished frames. Femi's lip curled in disgust. He stepped closer, his expensive Italian shoes splashing in the puddles. His designer suit was protected by a long umbrella held by his driver, who stood a few meters away, eyes averted, pretending not to witness the horror unfolding. "One night?" Femi laughed, the sound cold and cruel. "You think I worked this hard to build my empire just to have you and your parasites crawling back into my life? Our children, Femi. They're your children." His hands shot out and grabbed her jaw, fingers digging into her cheeks with brutal force. The children screamed, their tiny hands pulling at his arm, but he was too strong. "Don't you ever call them mine again," he hissed, his face inches from hers. "I have a new family now. A wife who knows her place. A future that doesn't include mistakes from my past." He released her with a violent shove. Funk fell to her knees, her arms still wrapped protectively around Blessing and Emmanuel. The concrete scraped her skin through the thin fabric of her dress, the only dress she owned anymore. 3 years ago, Funk had been Mrs. Oladeji, living in a comfortable home in Surulere, Lagos. She had been the woman who stood by Femi when he was nothing, when his business ideas failed one after another, when creditors came knocking and shame threatened to swallow him whole. She had sold her mother's gold jewelry, her only inheritance, to fund his first successful contract. She had endured the whispers of neighbors who called her foolish for staying with a struggling man. She had sacrificed her own dreams to birth and raise his children while he chased success. And when success finally came, when Femi's construction company landed a massive government contract worth 200 million naira, everything changed. The first sign had been subtle. A new phone he kept password protected. Late nights at the office that stretched into early mornings. Perfume that wasn't hers lingering on his clothes. Funk had ignored the signs, choosing trust over suspicion, love over logic. Then came Yatund. Yatund was everything Funk wasn't: light-skinned, model-thin, educated abroad, connected to powerful families in Abuja. She was also 23 years old, exactly half Femi's age. When Femi announced he was taking a second wife, Funk had begged him to reconsider, reminded him of their struggles, their promises, their children. His response had been to move Yatund into a mansion in Victoria Island while quietly evicting Funk and the children from their Surulere home. "The house is in my name," he had said coldly, as security men packed their belongings into garbage bags. "Everything is in my name. You have nothing because you are nothing." Funk had tried to fight. She went to his office, but security turned her away. She called his phone, but he blocked her number. She went to his family, but his mother, who had once called Funk "my daughter," now claimed not to know her, She sought help from the church, but the pastor suggested she pray for reconciliation and submit to her husband's will. The courts were no better. Femi's lawyers were expensive, connected, ruthless. They painted Funk as mentally unstable, a bad mother, a woman trying to extort a successful businessman. Without money for legal representation, without documents to prove her contributions to his success, without witnesses willing to testify against a man who now had powerful friends, Funk lost everything. The custody battle lasted 6 months. At the end, Femi was granted full custody. Funk was allowed supervised visits once a month, visits that Femi systematically blocked, claiming the children were busy or sick or didn't want to see her. For 2 years, Funk lived in her grandmother's one-room apartment in Mushin, one of Lagos's poorest neighborhoods. She took any work she could find, washing clothes, selling fruit at the market, cleaning houses. Every naira she earned, she saved, hoping to afford a lawyer who could help her see her children again. Then her grandmother died. The small room they had shared was reclaimed by the landlord. Funk found herself on the streets with nowhere to go, no family left to turn to, no friends willing to risk association with a woman who had fallen so far from grace. She had waited outside the children's school for 3 days before Femi's driver finally took pity on her and told her where Femi would be tonight. She had walked 15 kilometers in the rain, carrying nothing but hope and desperation, just to see her babies' faces. And now, on this bridge, that hope was dying. "Femi, I'm begging you," Funk sobbed, her voice breaking. "If you won't help me, at least help them. They're innocent. They didn't ask for any of this." "Innocent?" Femi's voice rose to a roar. "These children are a curse. Every time I look at them, I see poverty. I see struggle. I see the man I used to be, the man I refuse to be again." He turned to his driver. "Bring them." The driver hesitated, his face troubled, but ultimately obeyed. He walked over and reached for Blessing. The little girl screamed and clung to her mother with surprising strength. "Mummy! Mummy, don't let him take us." Emmanuel began to cry harder, his small fists gripping Funk's dress. "I want to stay with you. Please, Daddy, let us stay with Mummy." But Femi was unmoved. He grabbed Emmanuel first, prying the boy's fingers from Funk's clothing with brutal efficiency. Emmanuel's screams pierced the night as Femi hauled him toward the car. "No. Emmanuel. Femi, stop. Please." Funk lunged forward, but the driver caught her, holding her back with uncomfortable strength. She watched, helpless, as Femi threw Emmanuel into the back seat of the Mercedes. Then he came back for Blessing. The little girl fought like a wild animal, kicking and scratching, but she was no match for her father's strength. He grabbed her by the arm and dragged her across the wet concrete, ignoring her screams, deaf to her pleas. "Mummy. Mummy, help. Blessing. Baby, I'm here. I'm right here." Funk broke free from the driver and ran after them, but Femi was faster. He shoved Blessing into the car and slammed the door. Through the rain-streaked window, Funk could see both children pressed against the glass, their small hands beating frantically, their mouths forming words she couldn't hear but understood in her soul. "Don't leave us. Don't let him take us." Femi turned back to face her, and in his eyes, Funk saw something that made her blood run cold. This wasn't anger anymore. This was calculation. This was a man who had made a decision. "You want to know the truth," he said quietly, stepping close. "I didn't just divorce you because I found someone better. I divorced you because I needed to erase you. My new life, my fortune, my reputation, my connections, they all require a clean history. And you, Funk, are a stain I can't afford." "What are you saying?" He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I'm saying that you're going to disappear. Permanently. And those children?" He gestured toward the car where Blessing and Emmanuel were still screaming. "They'll forget you. In a year, maybe less, they'll call you Tund Mummy and won't even remember your name." "You're insane," Funk whispered. "I'm practical. He grabbed her arm and began dragging her toward the bridge railing. "You've been homeless for weeks. No one's seen you. No one's looking for you. When you vanish, who's going to care? Who's even going to notice?" Funk's heart hammered in her chest. She tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. The railing was getting closer. Beyond it, she could hear the violent rush of the Ogun River, swollen from days of rain. "Femi, please. You should have stayed away," he said flatly. "You should have accepted your fate. But you kept coming back, kept causing problems, kept trying to expose me to my new contacts. You left me no choice." He lifted her effortlessly and pushed her against the railing. The wet metal pressed into her back. Below, the river churned, dark and hungry. "Goodbye, Funk. Thank you for your sacrifice. My empire will stand on your forgotten bones." He pushed. Funk's scream tore through the night as she felt herself falling backward, the ground disappearing beneath her feet. Her last conscious thought was of her children's faces pressed against the car window. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you." But then, a hand grabbed her wrist. The fall stopped with a violent jerk that nearly dislocated her shoulder. Funk dangled in the air, suspended between the bridge and the river, held by a grip of steel. She looked up, rain streaming into her eyes, and saw a figure she didn't recognize. A young man in dark clothing, his face partially obscured by a hood, his eyes burning with intensity. "I've got you," he said. "Hold on." Behind him, Femi stood frozen in shock. His driver had fallen to his knees, hands covering his mouth. From the shadows emerged two more figures, large men in black suits, moving with military precision. The young man hauled Funk up with surprising strength and deposited her safely on the bridge. She collapsed immediately, coughing and shaking, unable to process what had just happened. Who are you?" Femi stammered. The young man didn't answer. Instead, he walked slowly toward Femi, his movements controlled but threatening. Femi backed away until he hit his own car. "I saw everything," the young man said quietly. "Every word. Every action. Every intention." One of the suited men stepped forward and whispered something in the young man's ear. His expression darkened. "Get the children out of the car," he ordered. The suited men moved immediately. Within seconds, Blessing and Emmanuel were free, running to their mother, wrapping their thin arms around her neck, sobbing into her shoulders. Funk held them close, her own tears mixing with the rain, unable to speak, unable to think beyond the miracle that she was alive and they were together. The young man turned back to Femi. "You don't know me yet," he said softly. "But you will. And when you do, you're going to wish you had died on this bridge instead of her." He turned away, gesturing to his men. One of them gently helped Funk to her feet, another lifted Emmanuel into his arms. They guided the small family toward a black SUV parked in the shadows, a vehicle Funk hadn't even noticed before. As they drove away, Funk looked back through the rear window. Femi stood alone on the bridge, soaked by rain, his face a mask of confusion and fear. For the first time in 3 years, Funk felt something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. What would you do if someone tried to erase you from your own children's lives? Have you ever experienced betrayal so deep it broke you? Hit that like button if this story is touching your soul, and comment below where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Chapter 2 is going to reveal the identity of the mysterious savior, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. What do you think? Who is this young man? Drop your guesses in the comments. The children wouldn't stop shaking. Even wrapped in thick blankets inside the warm SUV, even with the heater blasting, Blessing and Emmanuel trembled like leaves in a storm. They sat pressed against their mother on the leather seat, their small hands clutching her dress, their eyes wide and vacant with shock. Funk held them close, her own body still vibrating with adrenaline and terror. Her mind couldn't process what had just happened. One moment she had been falling to her death, the next she was being pulled to safety by a stranger. Nothing made sense. She looked at the young man sitting in the front passenger seat. He had pushed back his hood, revealing a face that seemed familiar somehow, though she couldn't place why. He was perhaps in his late 20s, with sharp, intelligent features and eyes that carried a weight beyond his years. He spoke quietly into his phone in a language she didn't recognize. Not Yoruba, not Igbo, not Hausa. Something foreign. The driver, one of the suited men who had appeared on the bridge, navigated the rain-slicked streets of Lagos with expert precision. They had left the bridge 15 minutes ago, heading toward a part of the city Funk didn't recognize. "Where are you taking us?" she finally found her voice, hoarse from screaming and crying. The young man ended his call and turned to look at her. His expression softened when he saw the children. "Somewhere safe," he said simply. "Somewhere he can't reach you." "Who are you?" He hesitated, seeming to weigh how much to reveal. "Someone who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Or maybe the wrong place, depending on how you look at it." He paused. "My name is Segan." It was clearly not his real name, but Funk didn't press. She was too exhausted, too overwhelmed, too grateful to be alive to demand answers. "Why were you on that bridge?" she asked. "Security sweep," Segan said vaguely. "We were monitoring the area for other reasons. But then I saw your ex-husband's car stop. I saw you standing there with the children. I saw," his jaw tightened. "I saw everything." Emmanuel whimpered and burrowed deeper into Funk's side. The little boy hadn't spoken a single word since they entered the car. Blessing was only slightly better. She had whispered, "Mummy," once, but nothing more. "They're in shock," Segan observed. "We need to get them checked by a doctor." "I don't have money for." "Don't worry about money." His tone was firm but kind. "Just worry about keeping them warm and calm." The SUV turned down a wide boulevard lined with tall palm trees. Funk recognized it suddenly. They were approaching Victoria Island, one of the wealthiest areas of Lagos. Her heart sank. This was where Femi lived now, in his mansion with Yatund. This was enemy territory. "Why are we here?" Panic crept into her voice. "He lives in this area. If he sees us." "He won't." Segan's confidence was absolute. "Trust me." The vehicle turned into a gated compound, and massive steel gates swung open automatically. Funk stared in disbelief at the property beyond, a sprawling estate with manicured gardens, a 3-story mansion painted pristine white, and security personnel positioned at strategic points. "Where are we?" she whispered. "A safe house," Segan said. "One of many." The SUV pulled up to the front entrance. More suited men appeared, a small army of security, all moving with the same military precision. A woman in a crisp white uniform hurried out carrying a medical bag. "Dr. Okonkwo," Segan said as the woman approached. "She's a pediatrician. She'll examine the children, make sure they're physically okay." Funk wanted to protest. This was all too much, too fast, too overwhelming, but her body betrayed her. The moment she tried to stand, her legs gave out. She would have collapsed if one of the security men hadn't caught her. "Easy," Segan said, suddenly at her side. "When's the last time you ate?" Funk tried to remember. "Yesterday morning? The day before?" Time had blurred into a haze of hunger and desperation. I don't know." "Get her food," Segan ordered. "Something light, soup, bread. And hot tea with sugar." They were ushered into the mansion. Funk had never seen such luxury: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork on the walls that probably cost more than she had earned in her entire life. But she barely noticed. All her focus was on her children. Dr. Okonkwo was gentle and efficient. She examined both children in a warmly lit sitting room, speaking to them in soft, reassuring tones. Emmanuel remained silent throughout, his eyes fixed on his mother as if afraid she might disappear. Blessing answered the doctor's questions in whispers. Physically, they're malnourished and dehydrated, Dr. Okonkwo reported to Segan and Funk. No broken bones, no immediate injuries. But emotionally, she glanced at the children with concern. They've experienced severe trauma. The boy especially, he's showing signs of selective mutism. They both need psychological care, proper nutrition, stability. They'll have it, Segan said firmly. A young woman brought food, a tray laden with pepper soup, soft bread, rice, and fruit. The children fell on it like starving animals, which, Funk realized with shame and rage, they were. She forced herself to eat slowly, though her body screamed for more. While they ate, Segan stepped away to make more phone calls. Through the doorway, Funk could hear fragments of conversation. Attempted murder, 2 witnesses besides me, yes, I'm certain. The children saw everything. No, we can't move yet. He has protection, political connections. I need authorization. Funk's mind raced. Who was this Segan? What kind of man commanded this level of resources, spoke with such authority, had access to safe houses and private doctors and security teams? When he returned, she confronted him. Please, she said, keeping her voice low so the children wouldn't hear. I need to know who you are. What you want from us. Nobody helps like this without wanting something in return. Segan pulled up a chair and sat across from her. His expression was grave. You're right to be suspicious, he said. In this city, in this country, nothing comes free. But I'm not asking for anything from you, Mrs. Oladeji. I'm simply doing what's right. That's not an answer. He studied her for a long moment, seeming to make a decision. My father is an important man, he said carefully. Someone who values justice, who believes power should protect the weak, not crush them. I was raised with those values. Tonight, I witnessed a crime, an attempted murder of a mother in front of her children. I intervened. That's all. Your father is an important man, Funk repeated slowly. The vagueness was deliberate. Important like a businessman? A politician? Important enough that when I make a phone call, people listen. Understanding dawned slowly, terrifyingly. This wasn't just some wealthy Good Samaritan. This was someone with real power, government power, perhaps. The kind of power that could challenge even someone like Femi. I don't want revenge, Funk said quickly. I just want my children safe. I just want a chance to be their mother again, Segan finished. I know. But Mrs. Oladeji, you need to understand something. Your ex-husband tried to kill you tonight. He did it without hesitation, without remorse. He did it in front of your children. A man like that doesn't stop. If you go back out there alone, if you try to rebuild your life without protection, he will try again. The truth of his words settled over her like a heavy blanket. Femi had crossed a line tonight that couldn't be uncrossed. He had looked into her eyes and chosen murder. He had thrown her off a bridge like garbage. He would do it again. So what do I do? She whispered. You let me help you, Segan said. You stay here, where you're safe. You let the children recover. And you let me gather the evidence we need to make sure your ex-husband never hurts you or anyone else again. Evidence? My dashcam recorded everything, Segan explained. The confrontation, the assault, the attempted murder. I have 2 witnesses, my security team. But that might not be enough. Your ex-husband has money, connections, lawyers who can make evidence disappear. We need more. We need to build an airtight case. Funk's head spun. This was all too much. Just hours ago, she had been homeless, hopeless, preparing to sleep on the streets. Now she was in a mansion, being offered protection by a mysterious stranger who spoke of evidence and legal cases. Why? She asked again. Why are you really doing this? Segan's expression darkened. Because 6 months ago, I watched my sister die. She was beaten to death by her husband, a respected businessman, a pillar of the community, a man everyone loved. He walked free because he had money and connections. The evidence disappeared. Witnesses changed their stories. And my sister became just another statistic, another woman who fell down the stairs. His hands clenched into fists. I swore that day that I would never let it happen again. That if I ever witnessed domestic violence, if I ever saw a man trying to erase a woman because she became inconvenient, I would stop it. No matter what it cost. Tears welled in Funk's eyes, not for herself this time, but for this young man carrying such a heavy burden of grief and guilt. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be sorry. Be strong. Be ready to fight. Because your ex-husband isn't going to surrender quietly. When he realizes you survived, when he realizes someone is protecting you, he's going to escalate. He's going to use every weapon he has, money, influence, connections, lies. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Segan looked at Blessing and Emmanuel, now curled up together on a plush sofa, finally sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. You walked 15 kilometers in the rain to see your children, he said quietly. You sold your only inheritance to fund a man's dreams. You survived homelessness, starvation, and abandonment. You stood on that bridge and begged for your children's lives even when you knew he might kill you. Mrs. Oladeji, you're the strongest person I've met. Before Funk could respond, one of the security men entered the room, his face troubled. Sir, he said to Segan. We have a situation. They stepped into the hallway. Funk strained to hear. Oladeji just filed a police report, claims his ex-wife tried to kidnap the children, says she's mentally unstable, dangerous. He's got 3 officers heading to Mushin to search for her. Funk's blood ran cold. Of course. Femi was already moving, already crafting his narrative. He would paint her as the criminal, himself as the concerned father. And with his money and connections, the police would believe him. Segan returned, his expression grim. He's already started his counterattack, he said. He's filed a false report, claiming you tried to kidnap the children. But that's not true. He took them from me. I know. But he has witnesses who will lie for him. He has money to buy cooperation. And right now, you're a homeless woman with no resources and no credibility. Segan paused. But you have something he doesn't expect. What? You have me. And tomorrow, you're going to have something else. He pulled out his phone and showed her a video. It was grainy, shot from a distance, but clear enough. It showed Femi grabbing Funk, dragging her to the railing, pushing her over the edge. This is your insurance policy, Segan said. Tomorrow, we're going to take this to someone who can't be bought, someone who values truth over money. Who? Segan smiled slightly. My father. Meanwhile, across the city in Victoria Island. Femi Oladeji paced his bedroom, phone pressed to his ear, his expensive silk pajamas soaked with nervous sweat despite the air conditioning. Are you absolutely certain she went into the river? He demanded. On the other end, his driver's voice trembled. I think so, sir. But there was a man. He grabbed her. I don't know if. You don't know? Femi roared. You were standing right there. Sir, please, the man had security. Big men. Armed. They took the children, they took the woman, they left in a black SUV. Did you get the license plate? It was too dark, sir. Too much rain. I'm sorry, sir, Femi ended the call and hurled the phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, pieces scattering across the marble floor. Yatund appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a designer silk robe, her perfect makeup smudged from sleep. Baby, what's wrong? Why are you shouting? Nothing, Femi snapped. Go back to bed. Is it that woman again? That crazy ex-wife of yours? Yatund's lip curled in disgust. Why won't she just disappear and leave us alone? She will, Femi muttered. One way or another, she will. But even as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. Someone had interfered. Someone with resources, with security, with the ability to appear out of nowhere and disrupt his plans. Who? He walked to the window and stared out at the glittering lights of Lagos. Somewhere out there, Funk was alive. The children were with her. And someone was protecting them. This was supposed to be simple. A quick solution to a persistent problem. Push her off the bridge, let the river do the rest, move on with his life. But now he had witnesses. Now he had a rescuer who had seen everything. Now he had a problem that money might not be able to fix. Unless he acted fast. Femi picked up his other phone, the one he kept hidden, the one with only a few numbers saved. He dialed 1. "It's me," he said when the call connected. "I need a favor." A big one. No questions asked. The voice on the other end was smooth, professional. "How big?" "I need to make some people disappear. A woman and 2 children. And possibly whoever is protecting them." A pause. "That will be expensive. And risky. I don't care about the cost. And I need it done quickly, before," he stopped himself. Before what? Before whoever pulled Funk from the river exposed him? Before his perfect new life came crashing down? Before what? The voice prompted. Before this problem grows bigger than we can handle. Another pause. "I'll need details. Photos. Locations. Last known whereabouts. I'll send everything in the morning." "Good. But understand, if there's government involvement, if there's high-level protection, the price doubles. And the risk becomes mine as much as yours." "There's no government involvement," Femi lied. "Just some good Samaritan with too much money and too little sense. For your sake, I hope that's true." The call ended. Femi stood in the darkness, his reflection ghostly in the window glass. He had built an empire from nothing. He had clawed his way out of poverty through cunning and ruthlessness. He had married into wealth and influence. He was untouchable. Or so he had thought. But tonight, standing on that bridge, he had seen something in the eyes of the man who saved Funk. Not just anger. Not just disgust. Recognition. As if the man knew exactly who Femi was. As if he had been waiting for Femi to make a mistake. A chill ran down Femi's spine. He tried to shake it off, tried to convince himself he was being paranoid. But the feeling persisted. Somewhere in Lagos, powerful forces were moving. And Femi Oladeji had just made himself their target. Back at the safe house. Funk woke in the middle of the night to find Blessing standing beside her bed. "Mummy," the little girl whispered. "Is it real? Are we really safe?" Funk pulled her daughter into the bed, wrapping her arms around her fragile body. "Yes, baby. We're safe. Daddy said we would never see you again. He said you were a bad person who didn't love us." The words cut deeper than any physical wound. Funk struggled to keep her voice steady. "That's not true, Blessing. I love you more than anything in the world. I have always loved you. I never stopped trying to find you." "I know." Blessing's small voice cracked. "I told Emmanuel you were still looking for us. I told him you wouldn't forget us. But Daddy kept saying," she started to cry. "He kept saying terrible things about you. And the new woman, she was mean to us. She said we were reminders of Daddy's mistakes." Rage, pure and incandescent, flooded through Funk. She had suspected Yatun treated the children poorly, but hearing it confirmed made her want to storm back to that bridge and throw Femi off it herself. "You're not mistakes," Funk said fiercely. "You're blessings. You're miracles. You're the best things I ever did in my life." Emmanuel appeared in the doorway, dragging his blanket. Without a word, he climbed into the bed too, snuggling between his mother and sister. For the first time in 3 years, Funk held both her children while they slept. She stayed awake the entire night, terrified that if she closed her eyes, she would wake to find it was all a dream. But dawn came, and they were still there. Still breathing. Still alive. still hers. What would you do if someone poisoned your children's minds against you? Have you ever been separated from your babies and felt that unbearable pain? Drop a like if you're feeling Funk's rage and heartbreak. Comment where you're watching from and tell us, what should happen to Femi? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Next chapter is going to reveal who Segan's powerful father really is, and trust us, you're not ready for this twist. What do you think? Is Segan telling the truth about his sister? Share your thoughts below. Morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Funk woke to the smell of fresh bread and tea, sounds of her children's laughter drifting from somewhere in the mansion. For a confused moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then reality settled over her like a warm blanket. She was safe. The children were safe. They had survived. A soft knock on the door brought her fully awake. A young woman in a simple uniform entered carrying a tray. "Good morning, madam. Breakfast is ready downstairs, but Mr. Segan thought you might want something in your room first." Funk accepted the tray gratefully. Hot tea, toast with butter and jam, scrambled eggs, fresh fruit. Simple food, but it looked like a feast to someone who had been starving for weeks. "The children?" she asked. "Having breakfast in the dining room with Dr. Okonkwo. She stayed the night to monitor them. They're doing much better this morning." After eating and showering in the attached bathroom, Funk found clothes laid out on the bed. Nothing fancy, just clean jeans, a simple blouse, and new underwear still in packaging. Everything fit perfectly. Someone had guessed her size with remarkable accuracy. She found Blessing and Emmanuel in a bright dining room, sitting at a table that could seat 20 people. They were chattering with Dr. Okonkwo, their plates piled with pancakes and fruit. Emmanuel was actually talking, his silence from last night broken by the comfort of a full stomach and his mother's presence. "Mummy." Both children jumped up and ran to her. She hugged them tightly, breathing in their scent, still hardly believing this was real. "How are you feeling, babies?" "Good," Emmanuel said. "The doctor said we can play in the garden later. There's a swing set and everything. After you rest a bit more," Dr. Okonkwo interjected gently. "Your bodies need time to recover properly." Segan entered through a side door, dressed in casual clothes but still radiating that air of quiet authority. He smiled at the children before turning to Funk. "Mrs. Oladeji, when you're finished with breakfast, I'd like to speak with you privately. There are some developments we need to discuss." Funk's stomach tightened with anxiety, but she nodded. After ensuring the children were settled with Dr. Okonkwo and a collection of books and toys that had mysteriously appeared overnight, she followed Segan to a study lined with books and expensive artwork. He closed the door and gestured for her to sit. "Your ex-husband has been busy," Segan began without preamble. "He filed an official police report at 4 a.m. claiming you attempted to kidnap the children. He's telling everyone you're mentally unstable, that you've been stalking him and his new wife, that you're dangerous." Funk felt sick. "But that's all lies." "I know. But he has 3 police officers who are willing to back his story. He's also retained one of the most expensive law firms in Lagos. They're preparing to file for a restraining order and to have you arrested on site. This can't be happening. After everything he did, he's making me the criminal." "That's how men like him operate," Segan said grimly. "They rewrite history. They buy silence. They turn victims into villains." He pulled out a tablet and showed her a news article. "He's also started a social media campaign." Funk read with growing horror. Femi had posted photos of himself looking concerned and loving, with Blessing and Emmanuel from months ago. The caption read, "Please help me find my troubled ex-wife who tried to take our children last night. She's unwell and needs help. If you see this woman, please contact the authorities. I just want her to get the treatment she needs." The comments below were vicious. Strangers calling her crazy, unstable, a bad mother. The post had been shared thousands of times. "He's destroying my reputation before I can even defend myself," Funk whispered. "Yes. But he's also made a critical mistake. Segan switched to a different screen, showing the video from last night. He doesn't know this exists. He thinks it's his word against yours. He doesn't know I witnessed everything. He doesn't know I recorded it. So we take this to the police? Segan shook his head. Not yet. The police in this city can be bought. Your ex-husband has already demonstrated he has officers in his pocket. If we go to the regular police, this video will disappear within hours. We need someone who can't be corrupted. And where do we find that? We already have. Segan stood and walked to the window. My father arrives from Abuja this afternoon. He's agreed to meet with you. Who is your father, Segan? Please, I need to know. He turned back to face her, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in his expression. My father is President Bello's chief security advisor, he said quietly. He oversees all presidential security, investigates threats to the government, and has direct authority over federal law enforcement. His name is General Musa Ibrahim. The room seemed to tilt. Funk gripped the arms of her chair to steady herself. General Ibrahim, she repeated. The General Ibrahim? The man who cleaned up the police force 3 years ago. The one who sent 50 corrupt officers to prison? The same. And you're his son. I am. Funk's mind raced. No wonder Segan had such resources, such confidence, such power. He was the son of one of the most feared and respected men in Nigeria. A man who had built his reputation on being incorruptible, uncompromising, ruthless against corruption. Why didn't you tell me last night? Because I wanted you to trust me as a person, not as a name, Segan said. And because my father's position brings danger. Anyone connected to him becomes a target. I needed to be sure about you first. Sure about what? That you were telling the truth. That you were a victim, not a manipulator. He held up a hand before she could protest. I believed you from the moment I saw you on that bridge. But my father has enemies. People who would use any weakness against him. I had to verify your story before bringing him into this. And I spent all night investigating. Your marriage records, divorce documents, custody battle transcripts, financial records, witness statements. I found everything. His expression hardened. Your ex-husband is even worse than I thought. He didn't just abandon you. He systematically destroyed you. He used his lawyers to paint you as incompetent and unstable. He bribed court officials. He intimidated witnesses. He even paid your former pastor to testify against you. Funk's hands trembled. Hearing it laid out so clinically made it worse somehow. He paid Pastor Adebayo 20,000 naira. I have the bank transfer. Betrayal upon betrayal. Pastor Adebayo had counseled her and Femi before their marriage. He had blessed their union. And then he had sold her out for money. I also found something else, Segan continued. Your ex-husband has been systematically hiding assets. The construction company that made him rich? It was built on your inheritance, just like you said. But he's created shell companies, offshore accounts, fake partnerships. On paper, he's worth 50 million naira. In reality? Closer to 200 million. Why would he hide his wealth? Taxes. Future divorce protection. And control. Segan pulled up more documents. He's planning to take a third wife. Another young woman from a wealthy family in Port Harcourt. But this time, he's making sure all his assets are hidden so no wife can ever claim them. The pattern was clear. Femi had learned from his marriage to Funk. He would never again let a woman have any claim to his fortune. He would use women, discard them, and keep everything for himself. Can we use this information? Funk asked. Yes. But carefully. Financial crimes are complicated. We need to focus on what's clear and undeniable. He pulled up the video again. This. Attempted murder. Assault. child endangerment. Crimes that can't be explained away with clever accounting. A knock interrupted them. One of the security men entered. "Sir, your father has arrived early. He's in the main conference room." Segan looked at Funk. "Are you ready?" No, she wanted to say. She wasn't ready to meet one of the most powerful men in Nigeria. She was a homeless woman in borrowed clothes with no education and no connections. What would a man like General Ibrahim think of her? But then she thought of Blessing and Emmanuel. She thought of the bridge. She thought of Femi's hands pushing her toward death. "I'm ready," she said. They walked through the mansion to a formal conference room. 2 more security personnel stood outside the door. Inside, a man in military uniform sat at the head of a long table, reading from a tablet. General Musa Ibrahim was in his late 50s, with iron-gray hair and a face carved from stone. He radiated authority and power in a way that made Segan's presence seem gentle by comparison. When he looked up and his eyes met Funk's, she understood immediately why corrupt officials feared this man. "Mrs. Oladeji," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "Please, sit." Funk sat, trying not to shake. Segan sat beside her. "My son has briefed me on your situation," the general continued. "I've reviewed the evidence he collected. I've watched the video from last night. Before we proceed, I need to hear your story directly. From the beginning. Leave nothing out." So Funk told him everything. Her marriage to Femi, the years of struggle, selling her inheritance, his business success, the arrival of Yatund, the divorce, the custody battle, losing her home, losing her children, the homelessness, the desperation that led her to that bridge. She told him about Femi's transformation from struggling entrepreneur to wealthy businessman. About how he had erased her from his history, from his children's lives, from existence itself. She told him about last night. About begging for shelter. About Femi's cold eyes. About the feeling of falling. About certain death. The general listened without interruption, his expression unreadable. When she finished, silence filled the room. Finally, he spoke. "Mrs. Oladeji, I have spent 30 years fighting corruption in this country. I have seen men steal from the poor, abuse their power, destroy lives without conscience. But I have rarely seen cruelty as calculated as what your ex-husband has done to you." He stood and walked to the window. "However, you need to understand something. The man you married is not just wealthy. He is connected. He has friends in the government, in the judiciary, in law enforcement. Taking him down will not be simple or quick. It will be a war." "I don't want war," Funk said quietly. "I just want my children. I just want to be left alone." "I understand. But your ex-husband won't allow that. He's already filed false charges. He's already mobilized his resources. He sees you as a threat that needs to be eliminated." The general turned back to face her. "If we do this, if we go after him, we go all the way. We expose everything. The attempted murder. The financial crimes. The bribery. The corruption. We destroy him completely. Because anything less, and he will come for you again." The weight of those words settled over Funk. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was about survival. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "Your testimony. Your cooperation. Your strength." The general's expression softened slightly. "And your patience. Building a case against someone this well-protected takes time. We need to gather more evidence, identify all his co-conspirators, cut off his escape routes. It could take weeks. Maybe months. What about the children? What about the charges he filed? The children stay here, under my protection. As for the charges, we'll handle them. I'll have federal officers take over the case from the local police. We'll make sure you're not arrested. But you'll need to stay hidden. No social media. No contact with anyone from your old life. Complete isolation until we're ready to strike. It was a lot to process. Weeks or months of hiding. Weeks or months of waiting while Femi lived free, spreading lies about her, poisoning more minds against her. But what choice did she have? "I'll do whatever it takes," she said. The general nodded approvingly. "Good. Segan will be your primary contact. He'll keep you updated on our progress. In the meantime, focus on your children. They need you healthy and strong." He walked to the door, then paused. "Mrs. Oladeji, one more thing. The video from last night shows attempted murder clearly. But in court, your ex-husband's lawyers will argue it was an accident, a misunderstanding, a moment of anger. They'll paint him as a good man who lost his temper. They'll use his wealth and status to create doubt. So the video isn't enough? It's powerful evidence. But we need more. We need witnesses who can't be bought. We need financial records that prove motive. We need a pattern of behavior that demonstrates he's a danger." The general's eyes hardened. "And most importantly, we need your ex-husband to make another mistake. Men like him always do. Pride and arrogance make them sloppy." After the general left, Funk sat in the conference room feeling overwhelmed. Segan placed a hand on her shoulder. "I know this is terrifying," he said. "But my father is the best person in Nigeria to handle this. If anyone can bring your ex-husband to justice, it's him. Why is he helping me? Why does he care about one woman's problems?" Segan's expression darkened. "I told you about my sister. What I didn't tell you is that my father blames himself for her death. He was so focused on fighting corruption in the government that he didn't see the monster in his own family. By the time he realized what was happening, it was too late. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just let him help you. Let him do for you what he couldn't do for her." Segan stood. "Come on. The children are probably wondering where you are." They found Blessing and Emmanuel in the garden, playing on the swing set under Dr. Okonkwo's watchful eye. The sight of her children laughing, actually laughing, made Funk's eyes well with tears. She had been given a miracle. A second chance. Protection from one of the most powerful families in Nigeria. But somewhere across the city, Femi was planning his next move. And Funk knew with absolute certainty that he wouldn't stop until she was dead or destroyed. The war had begun. And only one of them would survive it. Across Lagos in his Victoria Island mansion, Femi Oladeji stared at his phone in disbelief. The contact he had called last night, the man who specialized in making problems disappear, had just sent a message. "Cannot proceed with your request. Target has federal protection. General Ibrahim's security detail. Too risky. Do not contact me again. Federal protection. General Ibrahim." The names hit Femi like physical blows. He had heard of General Ibrahim, everyone had. The incorruptible warrior who had sent dozens of powerful men to prison. The president's personal attack dog. How had Funk gotten his protection? How was that even possible? Unless the man on the bridge last night was not just some random good Samaritan. Unless he was connected to the general somehow. Unless Femi had tried to murder a woman right in front of the most dangerous family in Nigeria. For the first time since his business success, Femi felt real fear. He had thought he was untouchable. He had thought his money and connections made him invincible. But if General Ibrahim was involved, all of that meant nothing. Femi's hands shook as he dialed another number. His most expensive lawyer, the man who had won him the custody battle, who had made all his legal problems disappear. "We have a situation," Femi said when the lawyer answered. "A big one. I need you to find out everything you can about General Musa Ibrahim and his family. Especially his children. I need to know who they are, where they go, what they do. That's dangerous territory, Mr. Oladeji. The general is not someone you want to." "I don't care. Just do it." He ended the call and began to pace. His perfect life was crumbling. Yatund was asking questions he couldn't answer. The police were calling for updates on the kidnapping case. His business partners were starting to hear rumors. And somewhere in Lagos, protected by federal security, Funk was alive and probably talking. Femi walked to his safe and pulled out a passport and a folder containing offshore account information. If this went bad, if the general actually came after him, he would need to run. Leave Nigeria. Start over somewhere else. He had done it before, reinvented himself from poor man to rich businessman. He could do it again. But first, he needed to know exactly what he was facing. He needed to know who had saved Funk on that bridge. And he needed to find a way to silence her before she destroyed everything he had built. What do you think General Ibrahim will do next? Have you ever felt the terror of facing someone more powerful than you? Drop a like if you are glued to this story. Comment where you are watching from and tell us what you think Femi will do now. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because coming chapter is going to shake everything up. Will Femi run or will he fight back? Share your predictions below. 3 days passed in the safe house like a dream Funk feared would end at any moment. The children were transforming before her eyes. Emmanuel talked freely now, laughing at cartoons and asking endless questions. Blessing had stopped flinching at sudden sounds. Both were gaining weight, their cheeks filling out, their eyes regaining the spark of childhood. Dr. Okonkwo visited daily, monitoring their progress. Physical recovery was happening quickly. Emotional healing would take longer. They need stability, the doctor told Funk on the 4th morning. Routine. School. Normal life. But that can't happen while they're in hiding. Funk knew she was right. But what could she do? General Ibrahim had made it clear that building a case against Femi would take time. Weeks. Maybe months. Could the children survive that long in this golden cage, no matter how comfortable? Segan arrived that afternoon with news. My father has made progress, he said, spreading documents across the dining table. We've identified 12 witnesses who worked with your ex-husband and saw him commit various crimes. Fraud. Bribery. Tax evasion. 2 of them are willing to testify if we guarantee their protection. But none of that is about what he did to me, Funk said. No. But it establishes a pattern. It shows he's a criminal who believes he's above the law. It makes the attempted murder more credible. Segan pulled up another document. We've also frozen 3 of his offshore accounts. 20 million naira. He doesn't know yet. Funk felt a grim satisfaction. Money was what Femi valued most. Hitting him there would hurt him deeply. What about the false kidnapping charges? Dismissed. Federal prosecutors took over the case and found no evidence to support his claims. The officers who backed his story are now under investigation for filing false reports. Small victories. But Funk knew they weren't enough. Femi was still free, still powerful, still dangerous. When will this end? She asked quietly. Soon. My father is preparing to move. But he wants one more thing. Segan hesitated. He wants you to record a full video testimony. Everything that happened. Your marriage, the abuse, the abandonment, the bridge. He wants it documented in your own words. The thought terrified her. Speaking those truths out loud, on camera, making them permanent and public. Why? Because if something happens to you, if Femi finds a way to silence you, we'll still have your story. And because when this goes to trial, your testimony will be the most powerful weapon we have. Funk agreed. What choice did she have? They recorded the video that evening. Funk sat in a simple chair against a plain wall and told her story to the camera. She cried. She shook. But she finished. Every painful detail. When it was over, Segan looked at her with respect. You're braver than you know, he said. That night, Funk couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Femi, wondering what he was planning. Men like him didn't accept defeat. They fought back. And she had learned the hard way that Femi fought dirty. Her fears were confirmed the next morning. Segan burst into the dining room where Funk was having breakfast with the children, his face tight with anger. We have a problem. Your ex-husband has hired a private investigator. Someone very good, very expensive. He's trying to find out where you are. Funk's blood ran cold. Can he? Not easily. This location is off all public records. But he's also putting pressure on your old neighbors in Mushin, your former employers, anyone who knew you. He's offering money for information. Will anyone talk? Maybe. Probably. Poverty makes people desperate. Segan ran a hand through his hair. My father wants to move you. Different location. More security. Today. The children looked up from their breakfast, sensing the tension. Are we leaving? Blessing asked, her voice small and frightened. Just for a little while, baby, Funk said, forcing a smile. Another adventure. But Emmanuel wasn't fooled. Is Daddy looking for us? The silence that followed answered his question. Within 2 hours, they were packed and moving. This time to a compound in Lekki, even more isolated, even more heavily guarded. General Ibrahim himself met them there. Mr. Aladeji is getting desperate, the general said. Desperate men make mistakes. We're close. Very close. Close to what? Funk asked. To ending this. The general's expression was steel. Your ex-husband is about to discover that some wars you cannot win. No matter how much money you have. But that night, Funk lay awake listening to her children breathe and wondered if the general was right. Or if Femi's desperation would lead him to do something even more terrible than trying to throw her off a bridge. Have you ever been hunted by someone you once loved? Drop a like if this tension is killing you. Comment where you are watching from. Subscribe for coming chapter where everything explodes. What do you think Femi will do when he discovers where they are hiding? Tell us below. The private investigator Femi hired was named Obin Nwosu, a former police detective with a reputation for finding anyone, anywhere. His fee was expensive but Femi didn't care. He needed answers. They met in a quiet restaurant in Ikeja, far from Femi's usual haunts. Obinna was a lean man in his 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your ex-wife has vanished completely, Obinna said, sliding a thin folder across the table. No phone activity. No bank transactions. No sightings. It's like she disappeared into thin air. People don't just disappear, Femi snapped. They do when they have powerful protection. Obinna leaned forward. I made inquiries. Quietly. The word on the street is that federal security is involved. High level. Presidential level. Femi's jaw tightened. How is that possible? I don't know. But whoever pulled her off that bridge has serious resources. The kind that make people like me nervous. Obinna paused. Mr. Aladeji, I'm good at my job. But I'm not suicidal. If General Ibrahim's people are protecting your ex-wife, finding her could get both of us killed. So you're quitting? I'm advising you to let this go. Walk away. The woman is gone. Your children are with her. Accept it and move on with your life. Femi's hands clenched into fists under the table. I didn't pay you to give me advice. I paid you to find her. Then you wasted your money. Obinna stood. I'm out. Find someone else to chase ghosts. After the investigator left, Femi sat alone, rage building in his chest. Everything was falling apart. 3 of his bank accounts had been frozen mysteriously. Business partners were asking uncomfortable questions. Yatund was complaining that people were gossiping about them. And now this coward was abandoning him. Femi pulled out his phone and made a call he had sworn never to make. To someone from his past, from the dark days before success, when survival meant doing things civilized men didn't talk about. I need your help, Femi said when the call connected. And I'm willing to pay whatever it takes. The voice on the other end was rough, dangerous. I heard you got problems. Big ones. Federal problems. Can you handle it or not? A long pause. Depends. What exactly do you want handled? I want my ex-wife found. And I want her silenced. Permanently. That'll cost you 5 million naira. Half up front. Femi didn't hesitate. Done. When can you start? Already started. I'll be in touch. The call ended. Femi sat back, feeling some of his confidence return. Money could solve any problem. Even federal protection had weaknesses. Everyone did. Meanwhile at the Lekki compound, General Ibrahim was holding a strategy meeting. Segan, 2 federal prosecutors, and 3 senior investigators crowded around a conference table covered in documents. We have enough to arrest him, one prosecutor said. The video evidence alone is damning. Arrest isn't conviction, the general countered. His lawyers will claim the video is unclear, that it shows an argument not attempted murder. They'll say she was suicidal and he tried to stop her. They'll destroy her credibility. So what do? We wait for him to make his next move. He's desperate now. He's hired investigators. He's making calls to dangerous people. We're monitoring everything. When he crosses the line again, when he does something undeniably criminal, we strike. Segan looked uncomfortable. You're using Mrs. Oladeji as bait. I'm using the situation strategically, his father corrected. She's completely safe here. But Oladeji doesn't know that. His fear and desperation will lead him to make mistakes. Fatal mistakes. And if he finds a way to reach her, he won't. This compound has 20 armed guards. Surveillance everywhere. A mosquito can't get in without us knowing. The general's expression hardened. But if somehow he tries, if he sends someone after her, we'll have him for conspiracy to commit murder. No lawyer can explain that away. The meeting ended. Segan found Funk in the garden, watching the children play. How are you holding up? He asked. Scared. Tired. Grateful. She looked at him. Your father is using me to trap Femi, isn't he? Segan didn't insult her intelligence by lying. Yes. But you're safe. I promise you're safe. Safe in a cage is still a cage. Funk sighed. The children keep asking when they can go to school, see other kids, have normal lives. What do I tell them? Tell them soon. Because it will be soon. Segan sat beside her. My father has never lost a case like this. Never. Femi will fall. It's just a matter of time. But time was running out faster than anyone realized. That night, one of the compound guards noticed something odd during his rounds. A small drone hovering near the perimeter wall. He radioed it in immediately. Within minutes, security swarmed the area. They shot the drone down and recovered it. The camera inside had been recording. Someone had been watching the compound, mapping the layout, identifying weak points. General Ibrahim arrived within the hour, his face grim. He's planning something, the general said, examining the drone. This is reconnaissance. He's preparing to make a move. Should we evacuate? Segan asked. No. We double security. And we wait. When he sends whoever he's hired, we'll be ready. Funk felt ice in her veins. Femi wasn't giving up. He was escalating. And despite all the protection, despite the armed guards and surveillance, she felt the cold certainty of prey being hunted by a predator who refused to stop. That night she held her children close, whispering prayers she hadn't spoken since childhood, begging God or fate or whoever was listening to keep them safe just a little longer. Because somewhere in Lagos, Femi was planning his endgame. And Funk feared that not even General Ibrahim could stop what was coming. Is Femi about to make his deadliest mistake? Smash that like button if your heart is racing. Comment where you're watching from and tell us what you think happens next. Subscribe because Chapter 6 is going to be explosive. Will Femi's plan succeed or will justice finally catch him? Drop your predictions below. The attack came at 2 a.m. on a moonless night. Funk woke to the sound of gunfire. Not the distant pops from somewhere in the city, but close, immediate, terrifying. She bolted upright, her heart hammering. More shots. Shouting. The compound's alarm system began wailing. Mummy. Blessing and Emmanuel burst into her room, crying, trembling. Funk pulled them into her arms just as the door flew open. Segan stood there in tactical gear, a gun in his hand. Behind him, 2 security personnel in full combat equipment. "We're under attack," he said quickly. 4 armed men breached the south wall. "We need to move you now." "Where?" "The panic room." "Follow me. Stay low. Don't make a sound." They moved through the hallway in a tight formation, the security men surrounding Funk and the children like human shields. More gunfire erupted from somewhere below. The children whimpered but stayed quiet, their small hands clutching their mother. The panic room was hidden behind a bookshelf in the library. Segan pressed a concealed button and the shelf swung open, revealing a reinforced steel door. He punched a code into the keypad and it opened with a heavy click. Inside. Now. The room was small but equipped for survival. Water, food, medical supplies, communications equipment. Thick walls designed to withstand explosions. "Stay here no matter what you hear," Segan ordered. "Don't open this door for anyone except me or my father." The code to unlock from inside is 7-3-9-2. Memorize it. "What's happening?" Funk asked, her voice shaking. "Your ex-husband hired professionals. Former military. They're good but we're better." Segan's expression was cold and focused. "This ends tonight. One way or another." He sealed the door. The lock engaged with a solid thunk. Funk sank to the floor, pulling the children against her. Emmanuel was crying silently, his small body shaking. Blessing stared at the door with wide, terrified eyes. "It's going to be okay," Funk whispered, not believing her own words. "We're safe here." Through the thick walls, they could still hear muffled sounds. Gunfire. Explosions. Shouting. The battle raged for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. Then silence. Terrible, absolute silence. Funk waited, barely breathing. Were the attackers dead? Had they won? Or had something worse happened? Footsteps approached the panic room. Heavy boots. Multiple people. A voice called out. "Mrs. Oladeji? It's over. You can come out now." But it wasn't Segan's voice. It wasn't anyone she recognized. Funk's blood turned to ice. She covered the children's mouths with her hands, signaling them to stay absolutely silent. "Mrs. Oladeji, we know you're in there. We disabled the communications. No one is coming to help. Open the door and we'll let the children live. You have my word." Blessing's eyes filled with tears. Emmanuel trembled against Funk's chest. "Last chance," the voice said. "Open the door or we blow it open. Either way, we're coming in." Funk's mind raced. If she opened the door, they would kill her and probably the children too. If she stayed silent, they would breach the room and kill them all anyway. There was no way out. She thought of Femi, sitting comfortably in his mansion, paying these men to murder his own children's mother. The rage that flooded through her was so intense it burned away the fear. She would not die quietly. She would not make it easy for him. Funk stood and moved to the communications panel. It appeared dead, but there was an emergency backup system. She flipped a hidden switch and a red light blinked on. She grabbed the microphone. "This is Funk Oladeji. If anyone can hear this, we are under attack at the Lekki compound. Armed men are trying to kill me and my children. They were sent by my ex-husband, Femi Oladeji. If we die tonight, make sure everyone knows he murdered us. She released the button and waited. Outside the door, the voice cursed. Stupid woman. You just signed your children's death warrants. Then a different voice. Younger. Familiar. Step away from that door. Segan. The sound of gunfire erupted again, close and violent. Men screaming. Bodies hitting the floor. Then Segan's voice, clear and strong. Mrs. Oladeji, it's me. It's safe now. You can open the door. But Funk hesitated. How could she be sure? What if they had captured Segan, forced him to say that? Mrs. Oladeji, I know you're scared. But I need you to trust me. The code I gave you was 7-3-9-2. But the real emergency code, the one only you and I know, is the number of kilometers you walked to see your children. 15. Relief crashed over her. No one else knew that detail. It was really him. She punched in the code and opened the door. Segan stood there, blood on his tactical vest, exhaustion in his eyes, but alive. Behind him, the hallway was littered with bodies. 4 men in black, all dead. General Ibrahim stood among them, speaking rapidly into a radio. It's over, Segan said quietly. We got them all. Funk stumbled out of the panic room with the children. Segan caught her before she collapsed. Did they hurt you? No. We're okay. We're alive. She looked at the bodies. Did Femi really send them? Yes. We intercepted their communications. They were hired to kill you and stage it as a home invasion gone wrong. Segan's expression was grim. But they failed. And now we have everything we need. General Ibrahim approached. Mrs. Oladeji, your emergency broadcast went out. It was recorded. Every word. Your ex-husband just became the most wanted man in Nigeria. Is this finally the end for Femi? Like if you're cheering for justice. Comment where you're watching from. Subscribe for next chapter where Femi faces his fate. Will he run or will he face what's coming? Tell us what you think below.